Our next guest is in fact returning on the 3rd of May. We were wondering when's he going to return? When's Bo Nickal coming back? Well, we got our answer late last week. He is returning on the 3rd of May in Des Moines, Iowa. He is going up against RDR Renier de Ridder. Some variation of that name. There he is, Bo Nickal, kind enough to join us. Hello, Bo. How are you?
Doing well, Ariel. How come these people aren't paying attention? It's crazy.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What you're just talking about with the UFC and stuff.
Let's talk. What do you think? What is your take on this?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it a lot. I think that it's interesting. When they switched over to the new model with ESPN, they're just putting out so many shows, right? Like it's just every weekend. And I know what I see is a lot of, from the fans' perspective, is complaints on this card, is this and that. It's not, it doesn't have the star power, blah, blah, blah. And, what used to be the standard was every card was a banger. And so I don't really know what they're going to do. I know they want to put on great shows. I think that, I don't know if the incentivization was there to put on great shows, and it was more volume and quantity over quality. So, but I'm not sure. I'm just a fighter, so I'm just going to step in the cage and beat people up. That's really what I'm focused on.
By the way, that's a great point. But there's a couple of mistakes that people make. Like I got into it with, and when I say got into it, like we just had a friendly chat about it, Alan Joban, because I was complaining that the Apex shows feel soulless and are just kind of hard to watch when it's just empty and quiet and all this stuff. And he was like, they're putting on so many shows. There are certain cards that aren't Apex, or excuse me, like arena worthy. They're Apex worthy. And my response to that was, they were doing this many shows back in the Fox days as well, when they were in different cities and countries every single week. They are booking those kind of like weaker cards, for lack of a better word, because they know it's going to the Apex. And so it would be on a Netflix or an ESPN to say like, hey, we need to beef things up a little bit. But right now it's the same amount of shows. They're not doing more. It's just, I don't think that there's any pressure, because ESPN is happy with the product and happy with what they're getting, to say like, oh, we need to beef it up. So I'm curious if with this new deal, they're going to beef it up and hopefully get out of the Apex, because I have a very hard time enjoying those shows. The fights are great, but I just feel like the atmosphere is a little hard to get past. You know what I mean?
I would say I fought twice in the Apex, and I would say that the virality of the moment is like a fraction of what it would be with the crowd, right? So, I think of some big fights in the Apex, Francis and Stipe, Poirier, Hooker. Like, imagine those fights with the crowd. Imagine how many viral, clips and highlights and moments there would be from those versus the, no crowd, no reaction. And as a fighter walking in, it feels weird. It doesn't even feel close to the real arena and a real crowd. And it feels like you're just going out there to spar. So I think that it affects the competition. And I would love to see more shows in interesting places. I'm really excited to be in Des Moines and compete in Iowa. I got a big fan base there. A lot of people that, know me, support me, and appreciate me. So,
wait a second. I feel like when you say this, by the way, is everything okay?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Sorry, my wife just tried to call me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Do you need to take that?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Okay. I feel like,
but yeah, I'm excited to fight in Des Moines. I think they should do more cards in interesting places.
I feel like when you say this about your fan base in Des Moines, you're thinking because, I don't know anything about collegiate wrestling, that I don't know about your history with Iowa. I've seen the tweets. I've seen you digging. What is going on? Are you like a huge heel over there? Here, guys, this is back in 2022. Guys, I will admit this, Micah Parsons' wrestling is legit. He did much better than most of the guys I wrestled in college. Definitely was tougher to pin than any Iowa wrestler. What's happening here? And I've seen my college record versus Iowa is 3-0 with 3 first-period pins, including one in the middle of Carver. My teams were undefeated against Iowa as well. Not competitive. Check the stats. I am Iowa's daddy. This is back in 2022. What's going on here? Tell us the history.
Friendly competition, For me, competing in the Big Ten, competing day in, day out against top-level programs, it gets competitive, right? I showed up every day for 4 years, put on a Penn State singlet, and I was out there to win. And the Iowa, the tradition of the program, the the fire, the drive, the competitiveness is there too. And so there was just in the past a lot of different things that just motivated me to want to beat those guys. Those guys were motivated to beat me, and I went out on top after 4 years, undefeated record, and a lot of domination. So I think at the end of the day, I respect Iowa wrestlers, coaches, the fan base. They're an amazing group of people, and I think that they don't really have a choice but to respect me because I put them in their place a little bit. But it's just all good fun, and I'm excited to go there. And I think that there's definitely some people that might want to see me lose, but the reality is the track record is pretty solid in the state of Iowa. So I'm looking forward to getting back there and competing.
So since coming to the UFC, since graduating from Contender Series, it was 285, 290, 300, 309, always pay-per-views. And I thought for sure you'd be on the Miami card. It seemed like perfect for you. And then we see you on your first fight night. Did they save you for this because of your history with Iowa?
I believe so. I think that just the history, the fact that it's such a strong tradition of wrestling. And, I didn't get into the thought process behind it, behind putting me on the card. But I think you can kind of extrapolate from previous data and feel like, it makes sense to have a wrestler there. You have other guys there that have history there, like Jeremy Stevens. And so I think that, they want to put on a show that is entertaining and makes sense and gets people excited. And I think that I'll maybe have a little hate there, but I think I'll have a lot of support as well.
Were you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things in college wrestling was rolling up to an away venue, whether it was, Carver Hawkeye or Gallagher Iba or, Ohio State or whatever the arena was, and just putting a whipping on that team because, they have their whole crowd there. I have, 15, 20,000 people cheering against me. And so one of my favorite things was to roll up there and silence the crowd. So, I don't necessarily think that I'm going to get a negative reaction because at the end of the day, wrestling people support wrestling people. There are a few diehards that will, of course, want to see me lose, like diehard Iowa people. But I think the majority of the Iowa fans that I've interacted with and that I see, they all want to support me and see me win.
So what about this matchup? Because it does feel like, okay, the natural progression, Paul Craig, RDR, undefeated in the UFC, looking good, multiple weight champion in one championship. Were you happy with the matchup when it was presented to you?
Yeah, absolutely. This was a matchup that I asked for. So I feel like it's a matchup that's exciting for a lot of reasons. He's had a lot of success in other organizations, had success in the UFC, and it's a natural step up for me. I think that I want to keep fighting better and better guys. And this is a guy that has a proven track record and, many, many finishes. And it's an interesting matchup. Again, similar matchup to the Paul Craig fight where he's got more of a jiu-jitsu style. But I think obviously him being on a win streak and also just having maybe a little more, just a different type of style on the feet, I think will prove to be an interesting fight, but I'm pumped up.
So you asked for him. Did you ask for anyone else, or was it just him?
I mean, I gave the UFC like a dozen names, so I was like, whoever you guys want to match me up with, let's make it work. And I think that it's getting harder and harder because one, I don't know that there's some people that want to fight me, and then there's a lot of people that don't. It seems like a lot of people that want to fight me, it's all upside for them, and they want to maybe like gain some clout off my name. And then the people that, as I move up the ranks that maybe have a lot to lose, they don't want to take the matchup as much. So it's an interesting position. In reality, there's only like maybe half a dozen people that I could fight at a certain point because of what makes sense with my career and my progression. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I asked for this fight. It was a fight that I wanted. And I don't know that he wanted it, but at the end, the UFC is the one that makes the decision. So they like it, and we'll do it.
I did see about a month ago, Andre Petrosky cut a mean promo on you, and then your response was, "I'd love to get an easy check, but the fans say I can't fight cans anymore." I mean, it's spicy. The tweets are spicy. I have to say the trash talk is pretty damn good. Is that what you view, Andre?
I mean, I don't think that it matters how I view him. Let's look at the stats. Let's look at the records. Go watch the film. and I can say whatever I want and what I believe. But at the end of the day, just go check the film, and I think everybody can make that decision for themselves. I think we're different levels, and not to say that he's not a good fighter. He's in the UFC and stuff like that, but I feel like my career path is like this, right? And I don't necessarily see the same for him. It would be a step down for me to fight a guy like that, and for me, it's not interesting.
So the fight in New York at Madison Square Garden was in November. This is May. So are we down to, like, do you like this every 6 months? I think there was a time where people wanted to see you even more active than that, but do you feel like this is the perfect cadence for your career?
I would love to fight more. I mean, for me, it's something that I think it's kind of a situation I found myself in where, again, there's not a lot of guys that I can fight. They had me in the rankings at number 15. So realistically, looking to move up and continue to improve and get better, there's just not a lot of guys for me to fight. And other guys are getting matched up at different times. And so um, it seems like a lot of it's out of my control. And what I've switched my mindset to is not the quantity of fights and getting the experience there. It's just getting the experience in the gym, continue and improve and develop. And for me, most guys at their point, if they're where I'm at in my career, they're still fighting on the regional scene. They're like, all right, I got 5, 6 more fights on the regional scene. Then I'm going to get a shot at contenders and then the UFC. And I've already been in the UFC for 4 fights. Like, I'm kind of getting to the point where in, another year or two, like, I'll be a veteran. So that's something that it's just the way that it's kind of shaken out and the way the cards have fell in my career. It's just been very unique and interesting.
I'm wondering if this thought crossed your mind in New York at MSG. You got to right the wrong of 2016, right? You got to exercise those demons. Are you getting a chance to exercise the demons of Cedar Falls in 2016 when you were trying to make the Olympic team? Is there anything there? Or is this a stretch?
I didn't actually compete in the Olympic trials in 2016, so I never wrestled there. When I look back at my career, I'm trying to think if I've ever lost in Iowa, and I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
In the whole state, you've never lost any competition in the entire state?
I'm trying to think. No,
Wow.
I don't believe so. Not since I started wrestling. So I've got a pretty dominant history there. That used to be a preseason nationals, folk style nationals as a high school kid. Won that a bunch of times. Went undefeated there in college. Won the Big Ten championship there in 2016. Yeah, look out! If I'm in Iowa, you're against me. You're probably catching an L.
By the way, Wells Fargo in Des Moines, that's the same as Bryce Jordan in at Penn State, right? I mean, if they're going there, they could surely go to Bryce Jordan and go to that venue with a card headlined by you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've started up discussions on that, looking at potentially. I want it, and I know Penn State wants it. The Bryce Jordan Center. I've been in contact with them. We've brought it to the UFC, and so I think there's some pretty serious potential to do a fight there. And I believe that you just throw me on the card, I'll sell out 17,000 seats, no problem. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
You think so? You think if they just announce Bo Nickal's fighting opponent TBD and not a single other fight, they're selling it out?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm training at Penn State a lot. I'm on campus. I'm in the community, and I can't like walk from the parking lot to the wrestling room and not get stopped by 5, 6 people. So I think that my name carries a lot of weight in State College, and then in the entire state, right? Like it's a really nice location too, because we're about 2 hours from Pittsburgh, 2.5, 3 from Philly, and then about 3 from New York. So I think that we'll get all that, big city traffic to kind of come in, meet in the center of the state. And I believe like that would be, I mean, the wrestling team sells that out, no problem, every single match. And so for me, with my name and reputation, that selling that out would be, yeah, no problem.
You had 3 Big Ten championships, right, to your name?
Yep.
What about our boy Gable? Just got his 4th, right?
Yeah, no, it was good. He's tough, man. Gable, he's a generational talent. He's a guy that the way he competes, at heavyweight is pretty unprecedented. There's only been a few guys that have had that speed and power and explosiveness. And when you look at a talent like that, I think, got to appreciate it. But I think I'm looking forward to a rematch between him and Greg Kirkfleet, hopefully NCAA finals here in Philadelphia. It'll start off this coming Thursday. And so, I'm riding with my Penn State guy. He hasn't had a win against Gable yet, but you never know. I mean, crazy things happen at the NCAA tournament. So we'll see what happens in a few days. And I'm hoping Greg can do the unthinkable, pull the upset.
For the MMA fan like myself who wants to get into wrestling, we've talked about this. This is no better time than now to talk to you with the tournament about to start later this week. Is there a name or two, a guy who maybe could be the next the next Ben Askren, the next DC, who is potentially finishing up or maybe has a year left, who's going to transition? Who should we look out for? Is there anyone? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but are there any like super studs who you hear might go into MMA after they're done with collegiate wrestling?
Yeah, there's a lot of really tough guys. If you're looking at guys that want to transition into MMA, Andrew Ramirez is a guy. He competes for Northern Colorado. He's a former national champion. He's had some MMA experience, or excuse me, some striking experience. I think I've seen videos of him, and I believe his dad maybe is an MMA coach. But he's going to be, I think, transitioning over, and he's really tough. I think the guy, you mentioned Gable. Gable's got the John Jones connection, and there's possibility we see him in MMA at some point in the future. But I think the guy you got to watch more than anybody is Carter Starachi. And he's the guy that, if you don't know Carter is an absolutely insane individual. He's already won 4 national championships, which is incredible. And because of the COVID year, he got an extra year. So he'll be going for his 5th national title this year, which is like it's never happened before, and it'll never happen again. With the NCAA eligibility, you only get 4 years. And so because of COVID, he got that extra year, then timing worked out, and he gets to go for 5. Right now he's undefeated. He's the number 1 pound for pound guy in the country, and he's going to be able to do something this year that's never going to be replicated again. So if he wins this 5th national title, I mean, you got to put him at least near the top of the greatest of all time list in college wrestling, because he'll have done something that nobody else will ever be able to replicate. And so he's a guy that I train a lot with. I put a lot of time in wrestling with him, and he's definitely going to be pursuing MMA in the future. And he spends a lot of time at ATT in the gym. So he's a guy that's just an incredible competitor, and you got to watch it. It's going to be history in the making this weekend in Philly.
I love it. And congrats to Penn State. Won the team title, right? Am I right?
We won the Big Ten, but yeah, you can pretty much guarantee that we already won the nationals. It's not, the tournament, it's not done yet, but with the way that our team works, it's like they're so stacked. There's so many good guys, and so the team race is kind of a formality at this point.
Okay, all right. I got ahead of myself. I'm learning. I'm learning, Bo.
Yeah, it's good. You should pop down and watch live.
I know. DC tells me it's incredible.
It's unreal. So you got 3 days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You have the 330 best wrestlers in America competing. So it's 10 weight classes, 33 guys a weight. You're going to see, hundreds of matches over the 3 days, and every round is more and more intense because it's just the bracket style, coming in from the first round to the round of 16, quarterfinals, semis, finals. And it's just like, it's an unreal spectacle. There's nothing like it in combat sports, in my opinion, just because of not only the volume of matches, but the quality. You're getting a lot of the best guys that have been doing it since they were 5 years old, chasing their dreams. It's cool.
Back to you. I remember we spoke right after the MSG fight. And, it felt like the first time in your MMA career you got some kind of criticism. People were starting to, they weren't impressed. You're not as good as we thought you were. All this nonsense. Do you remember any of that? Do you keep that? Is this one where you have a chip on your shoulder and you're trying to prove people wrong? Are you using any of that as motivation heading into this one? Hey there. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to remind you, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it very much. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up too. We've got live shows, interviews, clips, and a whole lot more going on this here channel. All right, now back to the show.
Not really. I think that it's interesting to hear people's perspective. And for me, I'm internally motivated. I only do this because I love it and because I want to do it. I think that I feel a little bit of fire when somebody, maybe says something negative about me or maybe doesn't believe in me, and it's more like an attitude of like, all right, okay, that's how you feel. All right, I'll keep that logged here and watch this. So this next fight is going to be the best fight of my career. I think every fight I continue to improve and get better. And the goal for me, again, it's not to beat Paul Craig or to beat Renier de Ridder or whoever the next guy is. The goal for me is to be world champion, pound for pound, number one fighter in the world, and dominate the scene for the foreseeable future. So I'm always continuing to improve and get better. And there are going to be critics. That's any great has dealt with that, and for me, it's just part of the journey.
I noticed you with Gordon Ryan. What was that like?
Oh, it's great. Getting to train down in Austin with Gordon and work with just some of the Gordon obviously being the best jiu-jitsu practitioner of all time, and a bunch of the other guys that he trains with at his gym is really, really awesome. I love getting to learn new technique and details. That's one of my favorite parts of the sport, is just getting more and more polished and refined and figuring stuff out. And then I think that the more I'm able to master the fundamentals, and learning good, solid fundamentals is just such a key that I can then use those to be more creative and do whatever I want to do in the fight. So learn from a guy like that's a huge honor and a huge opportunity.
Renier never been submitted in his career. Is this maybe a preview of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I feel like that's a pretty realistic outcome. For me, I don't like pigeonhole myself into the fight has to go this way, or I want it to go this way or that way. It's just go out there, put myself in good position, move left, move right, have solid defense, and then everything else will come, right? Whether it's a knockout, whether it's a submission, whether it's just domination for 3 rounds, like I'm there to win. So this is it's not a game. This is a real life fight that with rules. So for me, I'm going in there with every intention to smash this guy for 15 minutes. And if it's shorter than that, it's shorter than that.
By the way, I noticed you were ranked for like a cup of coffee a month ago. Now you're not ranked anymore, but you didn't compete. What was that all about?
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, the whole ranking thing is a little weird, but
yeah. So I mean, I get why they ranked me, right? So we had Sharp Bullet and I think another guy ranked, and then they lost. They took him out of the rankings. They slid me in there. But what I would like to hear what you think of that situation and kind of how it all went down.
Well, right now you're not there, right? You were
Right.
15 for a moment, but there's all kinds of activity. Like, how did Paulo Costa move
who
up?
slid in? How did he move up, and how did de Ridder slide into 15? What do you think?
Are you suggesting that there was some foul play?
Not foul play. I think it's marketing. Is marketing foul play?
I mean, to a degree, when we're talking about rankings, because rankings are supposed to be, independent and
Who
unbiased.
makes the rankings?
Honestly, they say it's these people, but I don't even know if these people exist. I think it's the UFC playing around with them. What do you think?
I mean, to me, the rankings it's all just marketing.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we've had guys that are number 7 fighting for the title. So no shade to them. Like, that's a great opportunity. But what if the rankings are what rankings, then the guy who fights for the title should be number 1, maybe number 2, but like, that's not how it works. So to me, it's all marketing. It's all optics. So I think that you can kind of connect the dots. If you see, I was in the rankings and now I'm not, and now the guy I'm fighting is in the rankings. Why would they do that? Right. Like,
By the way, I'm not trying to upset you, but this just came through. A good friend of yours with Conor McGregor. Does this bother you? Does this make you? Are you jealous seeing this, Bo? Does this annoy you?
No, not at all. I actually,
I thought you were his guy.
No worries. He can have a lot of friends. He loves the sport. So, yeah, I ran into Conor at the inauguration. Actually, it was one of the craziest things. So I was sitting at the commander-in-chief ball with a few people, and all of a sudden I just get bumped into by like 3 people. I'm like, what the heck? I kind of turn around and look, and there's just a mob of like 25 people. And they're all like looking into the center of this circle, and it's like moving kind of almost like through my group. And these guys are bumping me because they're walking backwards and not looking. And like I get finally the group moves around me and I get to the center and it's just McGregor in the center and he's just like, "What's up, Bo?" Like, and I'm like,
Sounds
"What's
like
up, dude? How you doing?" He's like, "You're killing it, mate. You're killing it. Keep up the walk. Keep up the walk." And I'm like, "Thanks, brother. Appreciate it." And he just moved through. But I think he wants to maybe pursue a career in politics, potentially in
yes.
Ireland. And I think that there's a lot of I don't talk about politics because I'm just a fighter, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Ireland and in Europe that's very interesting. And I think I think guys that have a similar mindset to me that know what it's like to really put in the work and grind and earn everything you get. It's good to have people like that in politics.
Yeah, I saw a lot of you there. GSP, Tim Kennedy, yourself, John Jones, Connor. It was a who's who. Look at this. Look at this crew right
Yeah.
here. A who's who.
Yeah, I felt I was honored to be in that group. Just hanging out with those guys was pretty cool. Yeah, it was interesting. We didn't really show up together. I came separately. It was a last minute thing, and then I just saw them at the same event that I was at, and I was like, "Yo, what's up, guys?" And so we just hung out, had a good time, and Tim took care of my wife and I. So he was super cool to us, and he knew everybody there. So I was just kind of at a certain point just tagging along with Tim because he knows a lot more people in those circles.
I have to say, we do a segment on the show on Wednesday called On the Nose where I answer questions. Till this past week, I continue to get questions about my appearance on your pod. A ton of questions. And I have to say, as I said to you on the pod, you do a great job. The questions that you ask, the way you listen and you ask follow-ups and the research and all that. And I feel like you're putting a little more TLC into this. I saw Chael on there. I saw a DJ. Like it feels like I keep seeing you pop up with these. Seems like you're enjoying it. What's the long-term goal for this? And it's called Nickels
Yeah.
and Dimes, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, my main goal with the podcast is just to have interesting conversations with people that I want to get to know or I like what they're doing. That's really the entire genesis of it. I like seeing people who are successful and have done really well in their area of expertise and just picking their brain and seeing what makes them tick and how they've found their way through their career. So I think success is such an interesting topic to study, and there's a lot of people that are studying it, and a lot of people doing a good job. But I like to make correlations between people that are just at the top level of their field, right? So that's kind of the ethos behind the podcast is just interesting, successful people, interviewing them, getting to know them, and I don't do really any prep or any type of studying for any of the guests. It's people that I already know and like, and I just want to get to know them more and learn what has helped them, find success in their career and share that with people. I think that it took a little while to get to that point where I figured out how I wanted to do it, but really it's just about having interesting conversations and learning and growing and being able to share that.
It's great stuff. I really urge the audience to check it out. Last thing, I did see you tweet. Someone asked you top 3 MMA wrestlers, and you had Islam Khabib and Khamzat. I feel like you were being Mr. Humble doing this one. How far away? Well, A, were you, and B, how far away do you think you are from that list?
I think that,
or were you trolling?
It's hard.
Maybe you're trolling based on your face right here.
I don't know. Those guys are all awesome. Islam, Hamza, Habib, all super accomplished. They've done amazing things, and you see their style, the way they compete. It's very wrestling heavy, and so I like them. I appreciate what they do. I film study all of them, but there are a lot of greats. There are a lot of guys that are doing really good things right now, and yeah. I think the list is.
You were messing.
It's always.
You were actually. Oh wow, you were instigating. I like this. I respect this. Okay, so you were just trying to rile up the Russian fans. Is that what you were doing?
No, Twitter's really interesting because it's like you can say 3 words or 3 names, and you can take that really any direction that you want. So some people could think that I was trolling. For me, those are guys that I respect and like, and I study them a lot. So whether you think that that's trolling or whether you think that's me just giving some respect where it's due, I think that, you could take it and perceive it however you want to.
All right. Fair enough. I like that. I like the little smile. Well, it's great. I'm looking forward to, RDR, former 205 champ. You'll be defending your unofficial 205. You're the uncrowned champ. We're uncrowned here of the 205-pound division after Ankalaev's win. If
That's
MMA
a big
math,
one.
yeah. So if I were you, keep the trolling thing going. Show up with a belt. Say here it is.
I don't know that. If you really think about it, though, it kind of makes sense because it's not like, oh, I beat a guy who beat a guy who beat a guy. Like that's a little far removed. Like you can't really take that for with too seriously. But I beat the guy who submitted the guy. That's like a direct right there. So
run with that.
Again, I think that you just gotta. It's just statistics at this point. Just statistics, film study, numbers. I'm not even really like. I don't know if I should run with it because the numbers do speak for themselves.
Okay, fair enough. Facts, but I appreciate you calling it out. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Looking forward to this. My crew is going to the fight as well, so I don't know if there's much to do in Iowa as far as like food or anything, or like great restaurants, or you seem to know the area quite well. Is there any final recommendation you can give to them?
I would say I don't know what city it is. But the national. It's I think not the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's the Dan Gable Wrestling Museum is there, and it's very cool. So I would check that out. It's like I forget the exact. If you just search Dan Gable Wrestling Museum, it'll pop up, and it's a really cool area. There's actually a little wrestling room in there. I've trained there a few times, but there's a bunch of different cool memorabilia and stories, and they do a really good job of like kind of curating it to tell a story about wrestling and talk about Dan Gable and stuff like that. So I would check that out.
Amazing. Thank you, Bo. Good luck. Appreciate it as always. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Ariel.
You're the man. There he is, the great Bo Nickal, returning to action on May 3rd against Renier de Ridder. You see that? I wasn't even invited, and I'm looking out. You see that?
RDR.
I'm looking out for that.
You were wanting him to cut a promo in Iowa.
No,
you were looking for him to be like,
there's a great gas station
in Iowa.
There's a great gas station over there, and he gave us an actual like great recommendation.
A great recommendation.
Is it in Des Moines? We'll find out. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.